Aesop's Fable EP79, The Rabbit Who Calculated Carrot Growth. Scene 1, The Curious Rabbit. In a small, sunny clearing at the edge of the forest, there lived a clever rabbit named Robbie. Robbie had a great love for gardening, and his favorite crop to grow was carrots. One spring, Robbie decided to plant a new garden full of carrots, eager to enjoy a bountiful harvest in the coming months. As he planted the seeds, Robbie wondered, how can I make sure my carrots are growing well? If I can measure their growth, I can know when they'll be ready to harvest. Robbie decided that he would monitor the growth of his carrots and calculate the rate at which they were growing to predict when they would be ready. Scene 2, Measuring the Growth. Every week, Robbie visited his garden to check on the carrots. He carefully measured the height of the carrot tops poking out of the soil. At the end of the first week, he measured that the carrot tops had grown 2 centimeters. By the end of the second week, they had grown another 3 centimeters, making the total height 5 centimeters. Robbie kept track of these measurements in a notebook, continuing to measure the carrot tops each week. Week 1, 2 centimeters. Week 2, 5 centimeters. Week 3, 8 centimeters. Week 4, 12 cm. Robbie noticed that the carrots were growing at different rates each week. He decided it was time to calculate the average growth rate to predict how tall they would be in the coming weeks. Scene 3, Calculating the Growth Rate. Robbie remembered that his friend, Ollie the owl, was great at math, so he hopped over to ask for advice. Ollie, Robbie began, I've been measuring the growth of my carrots each week, but I want to figure out how fast they're growing on average. How can I calculate the growth rate? Ollie smiled and said, to find the average growth rate, you need to calculate the difference in height from one week to the next, and then find the average of those differences. Robbie thought for a moment, then started doing the math. He looked at the measurements he had recorded. From week 1 to week 2, 5 centimeters to 2 centimeters equals 3 centimeters. From week 2 to week 3, 8 centimeters to 5 centimeters equals 3 centimeters. From week 3 to week 4, 12 cm, 8 centimeters equals 4 centimeters. Robbie added up these growth amounts. 3 centimeters plus 3 centimeters plus 4 centimeters equals 10 centimeters. Then, he divided by the number of weeks, which was 3, to find the average growth per week. 10 centimeters divided by 3 weeks is almost equal to 3.33 centimeters per week. The average growth rate is about 3.33 centimeters per week, Robbie said with satisfaction. Now I can predict how tall my carrots will be in the future. Scene 4, Predicting the Harvest. Armed with his new knowledge, Robbie continued to care for his garden, checking on his carrots each week. Based on the average growth rate, he predicted that in 2 more weeks, the carrots would grow another 3.33 centimeters per week times 2 weeks equals 6.66 centimeters. Adding this to the current height of 12 centimeters, Robbie estimated that the carrot tops would be about 18.66 centimeters tall in 2 weeks. Sure enough, after 2 weeks, the carrot tops had grown just as Robbie had predicted. By calculating the growth rate, Robbie was able to predict when his carrots would be ready to harvest. He dug up his first carrots and found them to be perfectly ripe and delicious. Robbie's careful calculations and attention to detail had paid off. He shared his method with the other rabbits in the forest, who were amazed at how Robbie had used math to predict the perfect time to harvest his crops. You can use math to help with gardening, Robbie told his friends. By measuring and calculating the growth rate, you can make sure your plants are growing well and know exactly when they'll be ready to harvest. The other rabbits were impressed and decided to try Robbie's method in their own gardens. Thanks to Robbie's mathematical skills, they all enjoyed a bountiful and perfectly timed harvest. Moral of the story: understanding and calculating growth rates helps us predict the future and make better decisions. By using math to measure and analyze, we can ensure that our efforts lead to success.